Hey folks, how you doing? Welcome to another edition of the Michigan Football Breakdown. Focus on the offense. Took me a little minute. Vance, like, man, you doing interviews? Yeah, I had some interviews to do before we came on. Why are you shaking your head, Al? I accommodated.
Big cigars, big motor car, Sam. You logged a little LA time now. You think you're big time.
I'm not big
Yeah.
time. I'm not big time, but there have been a lot of requests.
Oh,
We wanted to
geez.
make
Oh,
sure we
my.
got these breakdowns for the people in. I am live in Houston, and you see Vance right now. Vance is literally here with me. So I got to take Vance out to a steak dinner. I got to take our old Vance a steak dinner because the people have been saying, you got to get Vance. We got to get Vance. We're going to get Vance out to
Take
some steak.
advantage of that, Vance. Make him hold him to that.
I'm ready to go, babe.
So both of you, now we're going to focus on offense because Vance and I will do defense here in a little bit. But Al Borges, you went back and watched how many Washington games did you review?
Ugh. Well, before yesterday, I had watched all but Tulsa and the first Oregon game. I watched the second Oregon game. I not watched the first Oregon game, but this morning I knocked off both of those. Okay, so I pretty much got them all. I mean, it's kind of like just rewatching the same stuff, the same fronts, the same coverages, the same a little bit tweaks in game plans, but for the most part, it's pretty much the same defense, and it's not like watching Alabama. I mean, it's a little different deal. So, but it was interesting. They're not as good a defensive team as Alabama, but they're formidable. They can cause some problems. They do enough to keep you off balance.
And
But I'd
so
rather play Alabama. I'd rather play them than Alabama, I should say.
I hear you. This feels like watching them, and you tell me what you saw on film. It feels like a team Michigan should be able to run the football on.
Well, you want to believe that. They give up, I think, 137 a game, which isn't bad, but 137 in Michigan terms probably equals about 180 something because they're more willing. You got to understand, their offense threw the ball 523 times and only rushed it 391 times. So they're not real hung up on time of possession. Okay, they're gonna heave it up there. That's how they move the ball. Well, that has a reflection. That reflects how the Michigan's offense, wants to play now, because this, as I told you before, could be a big time of possession game. Where some games it matters more than other games. Sometimes it's worthless, like an ashtray on a motorcycle. It's not. It's worthless. You know what I mean? But in this one, I think it could be a factor.
So you did a great job of nailing. I mean, as accurate as your projections, your game plan projections have been, the one you did for Alabama, Al, was on a different level of accuracy. I don't know if that's born of your familiarity with Bama or if it was just that obvious from watching all the games, how you attack that team. But everything you said, right? Because you coordinated for what, 40 years? You're a 40-year coordinator?
30 something,
I'm
Sam.
not
Come
saying I'm
on,
not
man.
saying you're old, Al. I'm just saying you've been coaching a long time.
Man,
Oh,
Sam.
so you were offensive coordinator at UCLA. You were offensive coordinator at Oregon. You were offensive coordinator at Auburn. You were offensive coordinator at Michigan. You were offensive coordinator, what,
Boise
Indiana,
State, Portland State,
Boise
San
State.
Diego State. I mean, yeah, no, it's
Yeah, I mean,
all it says is that I can't keep a job. I mean, that's not a compliment. That's not real complimentary. Okay,
what assistant coach keeps the job more than 5, 6 years? Other than Fred
offensive
Jackson,
coordinators, not too many.
right? Yeah,
I tell all the young guys, if you can get 4 years, the rest is gravy, man. Sign a contract that goes beyond that, and then you can make $1 million sitting in your pajamas. But no, it is what it is, man.
yeah. So clearly, there are things that you just see by virtue of your experience, but it's not always that you nail it that accurately, Al. So I'm curious, as you go back and you look at all the Washington film, were there things as obvious to you as you reviewed their film as they were obvious to you when you reviewed Bama's film?
Honestly, probably not. I mean, but I got a lot of exposure to Alabama. Okay, coaching against Saban when he's at LSU, coaching against him when he was at Alabama, and then coaching him against him when I was here. I just have studied it a lot. Be better. If you don't, that's nothing revelatory. You better look at that stuff, and you better know how they play stuff, because they're a little different now, because the way they play their match quarters is something that's ingrained. They've been doing forever, and the kids know it, and he's tweaked it over the years. So you got to take a good look at it. I know that they'll defend the hell out of you if you make it easy on them. They'll defend the hell out of you if you make it easy. But if you start moving folks around, like I told you in the game, they Vance, 31 snaps in the first half, 29 there was movement by the offense, whether it was a shift, a motion, or a shift and a motion. Tight ends going from wide to tight, going from tight to wide, starting in bunches, flopping over into wings, into dough. I mean, there was some checks there now, and I know Nick is not going to compromise what he does. He's going to run his defense, come hell or high water, which for him has been his best friend. But when you run all that defense and they run all that stuff at you, eventually there's going to be an error. And Michigan took a few hits as they went, but eventually got some guys completely free. And in some crucial situations, one where Corum crossed the formation for their first touchdown, nobody covered him. They shifted from a cluster back into a tight bunch and then moved the back over, and somebody didn't get the check in 4th and 2. And Corum was wide open in the flat. Now, can you count on doing that all the time? No, but they got it when they needed it. So I think that's the approach you got to take to even have a chance. I'm not saying that's the answer. I'm just saying that's the best approach if you're playing against him.
All right. So when you talk about Washington, again, we've had this discussion. I'll get into it with Vance. I mean, he's a defensive coach. You know, when you're on the team where the offense is not about protecting you, we're gonna go up and down the football field. We're gonna throw it around the yard. It's not about how it impacts you. You figure it out. We're gonna score points, and that seems to me to be the approach of the Pac-12, not just Washington specifically. So the premium on playing great defense isn't what it is at a place like Michigan. I take that into account when I evaluate this defense, that they're just exposed so much more because they're they're just, it's basketball on grass. So what does that say to you, or what have you seen on film about how good they are, though, and how you might attack them? Like, what are their weaknesses and their strengths?
Well, number one, I'm going to say this. I think the first tell that scares the hell out of me when I hear people say this or coaches say this is they'll say, well, it's the offense's job to score points and it's the defense's job to stop them. It's their job to win, okay? It's your job to win. And if it means getting less yards, maybe even scoring less points, I don't care. That's what it takes to win. That's your job. That's your job, okay? So when I hear guys, well, it's your job to stop them, right away I go, this is a selfish mentality, and football doesn't work that way, and it's been proven over years that that's the case. Now, obviously the defense has got to stop them, and the offense has got to score some points, but the game can be won so many different ways, and sometimes it's with less numbers and just each guy pulling on the rope when he's got to pull. That's what happened in this last game. Is Michigan went to sleep in the third quarter, Sam, right? Yeah. Then all of a sudden, when it mattered, they made it happen. But why? Because the defense held them off enough. They didn't allow Alabama to score 3 touchdowns while they were asleep.
So Angelo F here in the stream says Texas was getting 7 yards per carry, but wanted to show off their passing game instead of grinding it out. Do you think that they just didn't stick with the run game as much as they should have when you watch that game?
They might not have. I haven't studied it. I'm not going to make a statement unless I watch every play on Texas and shoot my mouth off. But yeah, maybe they didn't. Maybe they didn't do what they had to do to win the game. But don't go after the game and say, well, we got 520 yards. Why didn't we beat them? Well, you didn't play to the defense. You didn't play the game the way the game had to be won. So there's so many things. Now, with Washington, understand something, Sam. The movement and all this stuff against Saban was good. It was great, okay? And I'd still use that approach, but don't expect the same results, okay? Because Washington doesn't run all those defenses like Nick does. He doesn't, they're less likely to put themselves out of positions. They're basically a 4 coverage, 3 coverage team, and you get guys open. Don't get me wrong. That's all a deal. But for a guy to slip through the line, be wide open with nobody covering him. I don't know. I don't know how much of that's going to happen. So I wouldn't change the movement, but I wouldn't. I'd have different expectations. Let's just say that. Okay, but they're two edges. Trice, particularly, is a good player. He's got 7 sacks there. Oh, they only have 21 sacks all year. It's not like those guys are. Most of their sacks come with movements. It's not guys beating people one on one. Most of it is China stunts and guys coming around and stuff. Where the protection breaks down somehow. But literal one on one matchups, they're not winning so many of those. You got a pass rusher that you can't sleep at night because you're worried about blocking. It's more of that kind of stuff. But and on the back end, like I say, they're a quarters coverage team and a 3-deep team, and a lot of times in their 3-deeps, they're pressuring with 1 or 2 guys, and doing some of that stuff. Their corners, Elijah Jackson, I believe his name is. I want to make sure I get these names right. Yeah, Elijah Jackson, 25, is their left corner, and Jabbar Muhammad's their right corner. He's a transfer from the Big 12. Number 1 is the better corner of the two. They pick on 25. They'll put a guy inside. 25 will cover him inside. They'll internal fade with him, and he got beat a couple of times. Texas got him on that, and other teams got him on that too. So I think those are things that are good. I'm going to take a shot at this name now because trying to memorize Washington's names.
Yeah,
Vanna White did not have this many vowels. Okay, she didn't, because I can't. There's just no way. But this guy.
don't say it.
No, I'm doing this. Edifuan Ola Fascio. Okay, he's number 5. He's inside linebacker.
Olafashinu.
Yeah, very athletic. Very athletic. He suffered from injury problems, but he can run. And like I mentioned twice, Latula Gasanoa, I got that one now. 91, good defensive end, moves pretty good. And their leading tackle is Dominic Hampton. That's an easy one. Okay, I got that one. He's their strong safety. He plays on the roof for the most part all the time. Last year they used him at some nickel, but now they got a guy that's Michelle Powell playing their nickel. And they're interesting because most guys play their 3-4 front without subbing. They'll just bump a guy away from one of their stand-ups and play their 4-2. These guys don't. They'll sub out an extra defensive lineman, take out their nickel, and play with 4 on the roof, okay? Rather than, and when they go to their 4-2, they'll insert the nickel, who's number 3, and then go to their 3-man line and play 3-man line variations with under, odd, whatever, all the stuff we're seeing right now. So they have that, and then they have a dime package where they'll put a whole bunch of new guys, all pass rushers. They'll play the split front with both linebackers up. They'll play the 4-1, and you'll get all the exotic blitzes that you'll get, more there than any other front that they're in. But that's really what they're in 3 fronts, basically. 4-2 with the nickel, 3-man line with 2 edges and 2 linebackers and 4 DBs, and then their dime package, which they'll use usually on 3rd down. So that's what they do. They've got 2 kids with 3 interceptions. Powell and Muhammad have intercepted the ball, but their statistics defensively are not gaudy. They give up 404 yards a game, okay, which right off the top I'm going, ooh, wait a minute on that. Now, they do play in a conference that is more offensive-minded, okay? So those numbers are going to be a little inflated, but no one can look you square in the eye and say giving up 400 yards a game is good defense. So I like that. I think that bodes well for Michigan and the way they play. So, but you asked how to attack them. You got to hit them in the mouth, son. Hit them in the mouth to do your deals with your duo plays and with you. Something it's watching the videos, because I go back over and see which plays look good, which plays were hitting. I think you got to test those edges, because the 2 edge guys have shown some vulnerability to counter plays, have shown some vulnerability to pin and pulls, even from a 9 technique, which you don't usually use the pin and pull a lot on, but they've shown that. And just base power plays, which nobody really runs much, but Michigan has. And I wouldn't be surprised if you saw some of that, okay? Some shots downfield versus 3 and 4 coverage on early downs. The predictability of those 2 coverages. You're usually going to get one of those 2 on 1st and 2nd down, and I think that's something that you got to do. I think you got to go after number 25 a little bit. The left corner is not a bad player, but he's not as good, I think, as the right corner. Another one, Sam, that we haven't seen this year that I think shows up in the tape is, and I don't even remember this, is anytime you can get a nub side tight end and free release the back towards the nub. Remember Donovan did against Penn State, where
Uh-huh.
he free released on a rail route, tight end went straight down the field. Don't be surprised if they don't pull that one out, okay? Because on film, that one, remember I said that, okay? I think
No, no,
that
no.
would
Wait,
be,
wait, wait, wait. But why that particular play? What you saw
or
that?
just the way they defend nub side pass plays is they give you the flat a lot of times. Either the outside most guy will squeeze when the tight end releases up the field and allow the free releasing back to outflank him. So I think because the ball gets thrown out there a bunch, Now I didn't see anybody rail, actually take off on him, but I know Michigan's got that in their bag. So I would not be surprised if you saw some of that. Shallow crosses, something that got them a couple touchdowns the last game. I see that as a good ingredient for, then they're good at those. They understand them, so, and they'll do a little bit of matching. They don't do much as Alabama does, but as they do. And something that has showed up in every game is the quarterback pulling the ball down and taking off and running. Almost every team and for substantial gains, and in some instances buying time to just make a throw. That shows up all over the place. And I am looking for a bluff zone, Sam. I'm looking for something off a split action where JJ can pull the ball. That has not been featured this year as much as it was a year ago, but they are vulnerable to that because of the way the edges play downs. Anytime you down and they got a pup, they'll either turn. They don't turn much. They usually squeeze so much they'll give you the edge. And if you set it up with a couple split zones, I think that's got a chance. But quarterback draw, that showed up a little bit too, and some naked passes. And again, it goes hand in hand with the idea that you got to misdirect them some. And I think just a package of nakeds, 3 or 4 during a game, at the end of the day, will be very beneficial. So, that's a lot of stuff, and then they won't do all that stuff. But those are plays.
No, so
Those are plays that will.
I'm curious. I'm curious the back and forth between you and Vance, because you just gave me a lot of things that you feel like could be attacked, and so I'm curious, from both of you, based on what Michigan does, what do you think is going to be most successful? Because I just feel like, coming off of what we just saw with Blake, I think that Michigan's going to rush for over 200 yards in this game. Am I off base for thinking that?
I think they need to. They need to shorten the game somehow. Listen to Al talk it sounds like you're talking about Washington's offense. Al, pin and pull, counter or the top plays. In the last 2 ball games, there have been quite a few quarterback runs. And as we know, this quarterback was in Indiana when they ran the spread offense. So he's running the ball more. So you could see the power read play that Alabama did on us in the third quarter. That showed up last ball game versus Texas. It's going to show up versus us. So the things you just talked about, I saw the same things for the offense. So you're talking about attacking Washington's edges. That's how they also play offensively. Counter, pin pull, toss sweep. They move the pocket. It's not a boot or a naked Al. They move the pocket from the center to the tackle to affect pass rush. So they do a good thing. Things you talked about, I see the same thing when I watch their offense.
Yeah, mostly pocket change you're talking, not necessarily sprints,
That's
just pocket change. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's gonna be a game if the past is indicative of what we'll see. Like, so maybe from what you say, they've seen, at least in practice, some of the things that Michigan does. But they haven't seen it be as physical, right? I mean, you can mimic some of the stuff. You got the power read. You got different things that Michigan's gonna bring to the table, but they just don't hit it like Michigan does. I don't think on either line. And I feel like how you started, Al, to control this game, you got to run the football, because I feel like in the TCU game last year, they got caught playing TCU's game.
Well, they did. The turnovers killed them, and that's exactly what happened. You want them tapping their foot on the sideline. The offense does. When are we getting in there? Damn it! When are we getting in there? When is this going to end? So and Vance mentioned it, is lessening the possessions. Getting them where they just don't touch it as much. So what happens then, and I don't coach an offense because I've been in these now, is the quarterback gets impatient. And he only gets, oh God, we had to wait 8.5 minutes to get the ball. He gets it, he goes, we got to do something with it, and we got to do something with it now. Now, he may not say that, but I promise you those wheels are turning in his head. And a lot of times what will happen is it'll contribute to a panic throw. So I just believe that hitting them in the mouth, doing the stuff you do, and keeping them on the sideline as much as you possibly can is the answer.
All right. So you gave me a couple of specific plays. What's their strength? What do you got to watch out for if you're Michigan
Well,
with their
I
defense?
think the edges are good players. I think Trice is a very good player. I think number 5, and I'm not even going to attempt his name again. I did it once, and that's the end of that. But I think he's an athletic guy. Hampton, the strong safety, is good he's probably better on the roof than he is low. Okay, but what they did is when he used to play down low in the box a lot, and they switched it. They took Michelle Powell and put him low and kept Hampton either playing deep third or some form of quarters. And I think they're pretty good at it. They're not bad on coverage now. I tell you, early in the game, Oregon was having trouble completing passes consistently, but at one point that ended, and the reality of that one came up. But they're not a fabulous pass rushing team. So I think there's opportunities there on some shots, Sam, particularly on early snaps. Is see if you can't get something layered in behind them, some deep floods. The type of stuff that comes off play action. It's always they do so well when they get protected. So they play their butts off now. Every one of those guys, that front particularly, the down guys, they play really really hard, and they know that their offense can score. So I think in some instances they'll roll the dice a little bit on defense just to see if they can't get a tackle for loss or a sack or something, knowing that their offense will bail them out.
All right. So I'll get to some of the questions for the people. All right. So start getting your questions in now. I wasn't really looking at the questions before this, but as we get ready for this game, Al, I want to get my bullet points together. So you said in the past game, you could really see attacking the nub side. And is that what you said?
Yeah, I think attacking with free releases now, and I'm talking about free release, maybe in a 3-by-1 with a nub tight end and being able to free release. Some of the things they've done in the past, but really haven't shown a hell of a lot during the course of the season. I think again quarterback runs, and I think they're going to do that, but I'm not going to say they're going to run 8 to 10 like I did last year. I think they'll run enough to keep him honest and use him when they need him, but I don't think it's going to be a run fest for the quarterback.
But
But
counters.
counter. They have actually defended dual plays fairly well, but they haven't. Again, it's all about matchups. It's not about numbers, right? They haven't defended Michigan's dual play, so I think that is a play that has to be tested to see if how well they handle it. Insert zones. I didn't mention that, but that's another thing that people have run at them with some success. So, I think the base run game, pick and choose what you think the best candy in the store is, and then camouflage it, window dress it, do what you do, use your tight ends to make them defend multiple gaps. All the stuff they do. I mean, this to me is more of a basic game plan. To a degree, more of a than in Alabama where you may have needed a few more creative deals to move the ball. This not that you don't want to do some of that in this game too, because you do, but I think a good solid run to pass ratio and the ability to hit them in the mouth, particularly in situations where you have to short yardage, goal line, or early downs. I think it'll bode well for them. It's I just like the fact that I think that they throw so much plays. It's good as quarterback is now. I don't want to plays more to Michigan's strengths.
Yeah, we're gonna get into it when we talk to Vance. We're gonna get into what they got to do to
Well, the only
turn
reason I
the offense
mention that is
around.
because I think it will play into how the offense thinks.
Yeah.
Because I think you get the possibility of more 3 and outs, and that is big for the offense. Now you go out there and wipe some time off the clock, and they really get impatient. So
All right. So before I get to the questions from the people, I need a question from the coordinator to the coordinator. You got any? Based on what you heard Al say, Vance? Anything kind of jump out to you about that? You wonder about, you question based on his analysis, looking at the Washington defense.
Not at all. I'm with Al. To me, some of the game plan you have versus Alabama with the shifts, the trades, and the motions, you still need to do those type of things because I think their secondary is better than what people give them credit for. I mean, Texas has some good receivers. They had a hard time getting receivers open. So you should go in the game plan thinking, okay, they're decent. We're gonna move guys around to cause some confusion and get guys open. And I'm gonna come back to what I've been saying the entire year. I think our tight ends are as good as any tight ends in this country. I don't think that they can hold up versus our tight end pass game. I think Loveland, they're gonna have a field day if we decide to go that route, that particular situation. But also running the ball, shortening the game, staying in third down and 5. Al, I got a question for you. You talked about they going to their dime package on third down and long. So if you get a first down, offensively, do you try to go fast to keep those guys on the football field, or do you give them a chance to get off?
I would do it every time, but I would have what I called a speedy package where, okay, boys, this time if I give you a signal and we get a first down, we're going right to the ball. Okay. Or on second down, if you don't want that group on the field. Now remember, Michigan is not limited to pouring 4 wide receivers out time on the field every time it's third down. They will play with 12 personnel and not even blink an eye. Okay. So you can keep them in the game and do your deal and go fast before they can get all their exotics in there. You know what I mean? So I think there's something to speedy offense. Again, I wouldn't do it all the time because I don't think that plays to what they do best, but there is this place for it. There is a place for it.
I ask you that because Michigan is not really a speedy team.
No, they're not. But there's nothing wrong. Even if you huddle, it makes a big difference when every so often you change pace. Every so often you change pace. That's a pain in the butt. Let me tell you something else I heard. And I don't know if you heard this Nick Saban interview afterwards. This was fascinating. Okay. And Vance, I got to get your take on this one. You know what screwed them up? Huddling. They had faced, listen to this now, they had faced 13 teams that did not huddle. Nick claims he loves it because you can see right away where they're putting their receivers. You see what I mean? There's no pause between huddling and coming to the ball. And he makes all his checks based on where they're putting the receivers. Okay. And he said in this game, because they huddled, they came out with, I don't know, 15, 16 seconds left. And you had to get your stuff together fast. You couldn't, the players had to do more of the checks than the coaches did. You know what I mean? He didn't say that, but I knew that was basically what was going on. But he said the huddle threw him. It actually threw him. I said, I was on Feinbaum. I was talking to Feinbaum about it. And I told him, I said, maybe the huddle's going to make a comeback.
So wait a minute. So Saban didn't know Michigan huddle?
Oh, no, they knew they huddled.
Well, what the hell, man? You can't
forget. But the thing about it, you have less time. Whether they know it or not, it's irrelevant. When they're showing you the formation instantly after the next play, it's a lot easier to get the calls and everything than it is when they sit in the huddle, break at 16, all of a sudden break it. Then think about this, Sam. They stick in the huddle, they break it, I don't know, 17, 18 seconds, get to the ball, and then shift all over the place. Okay? So you see it is a completely different dynamic than dealing with what they see in the SEC every week.
No doubt.
It resonated with me now. It resonated with me. I said, oh, I've never heard anybody say that. Rich Rodriguez, huddles is the most worthless thing in the world, right? That's what he said. I never got that much, but I've done both. I've not huddled and I've huddled as a habit, But
now the defensive coaches don't have a check system like Nick does. They make a call and keep it simple and go play. With Nick, he wants to check and try to get in a perfect defense
exactly.
The sideline, the same as offensive coaches do. So that was a problem for him. Most coaches, except for maybe Kirby at Georgia, they do those type of things. Most coaches line up and just play football. We're gonna make our calls. We might have one check and that's it. But Nick, he's checking as if when you check, he checks. You check again, he's gonna check again. So, he's playing chess instead of checkers, and right now we end up playing checkers and beat him.
Yeah. Well, one thing Muschamp told me when I worked with Muschamp at Auburn, because I asked him a million questions about Nick's defense. He says he's not compromising his scheme. So forget it. If you think you're getting into a formation and dictating to him what he's going to do, you're crazy. He ain't doing that. He's doing the checking. You're not doing the checking, and that resonated with me. When we planned for him because he was going to do. You're going to see everything you saw on video, and it may have been not exactly the same time. It may not be exactly the same check, but it was going to show up.
All right, I'm gonna get to the questions for the people. For Al, I'll get to the questions for Vance here shortly. So, Al from Tropicana Banana, how much RPO are we going to see out of Washington?
But that's better for Vance.
That's better for Vance. I don't. They wanted your opinion on it, but
quite a bit.
You think
But
about
he's watched them a lot more than I have on offense.
A lot of RPO.
we'll get to that shortly. Al, don't they look small? Seems like they stay in a four-man line all the time. Don't show much sim pressures. What do you think?
No, they do. They show some pressures. They got some pressures. I had him shark blitzing, bringing two off the edge. I had him target blitzing, bringing two linebackers in an odd look. The favorite thing is just to bring two guys off the edge because it's natural for the for the edges, particularly in the 3-4 front. So yeah, they bring some pressure, and they're not small. They got some dudes in there with some thick butts that are not going to be easy to push around, who play their butts off. Okay, so
All right. Go to the next one. This is from Dan Nick. Said Joel Klatt's premise is that Washington is basically Ohio State 2021. Been saying that. And that Michigan's defense is entirely built from the ground up to play a team like Washington. This is our bread and butter, per se. Do you expect OSU style game plan to slow them down?
that's a Vance question there.
No, he's talking about on offense. I thought he was talking about on offense.
Oh,
Do
is
you
he? You're
expect the
talking about?
game
Oh, I see.
to slow them
It says
down?
Michigan's defense is entirely built for
That
the
is
ground.
Yeah, yeah. I thought he was talking about the defense is built again. I thought he was saying the defense is built that way. So he was wondering if the offense was going to, run the football to slow them down. Maybe I
Yeah,
don't.
we talked about that already. I think you gotta. I think you gotta. And one thing you don't have to worry about with Michigan is patience, because they in every game have demonstrated patience about running the football. Because that can easily get away from you when you, and it's happened to me as a play caller. I didn't hit what I wanted, didn't get 4 yards. But we talk about this all the time. Sam is chipping at that rock until it cracks, and
Well,
sometimes it can crack to the fourth quarter. But
so that question kind of leads into this next one, at least as far as how maybe I interpreted it wrong. But then Ferris Khan comes back and it says, Al, how much does time of possession matter? Which is why I was getting to the prior question.
I think in this game it could be big. I do, and it may not be 10 minutes more than the opponent and all that, but you have to. I believe in this game, possess it more than they do, because I think it will bode well for their lack of patience. If you can find a way to stay on the field enough to when they get on the field, they feel they must do something, and that affects the quarterback. I know that, coaching that guy for 30 years. That affects the quarterback. So I think it could be big.
All right. Uh, Al, another screen pass question. I don't even know how to say this person's name, so we'll just say D3. Says, do you think the screen pass to Corum or Edwards could come in handy in the national championship?
Well, it's funny you say that because I wrote one down. I did. They haven't really used a slip screen package at all. That's just not their nature. But Oregon threw a slip screen on them, almost the same type of screen that Michigan had thrown on Illinois last year. Remember that, Sam?
Yep.
Yeah, they threw it twice and hit big on both. I think that, who knows? I said it would be. I would expect the possibility of it. Now, if I didn't see it, it wouldn't surprise me either, because I always think they're going to throw more screens than they do. But what better time to pull one out against a team that's vulnerable to it? See, I did not feel, and coaching against Alabama and Saban defenses, that slip screens were very good. They played match. They were on our screens every time we throw one. So I said, nah. But these guys, not so much. These guys crossing the back across the formation, cracking the inside linebacker, doing some deals like that, I think it's got a chance. But again, it's really not their culture. So it's going to have to be a new ad that they haven't practiced as much. So, they may roll the dice and try it, but it does look good.
All right. Ferris Khan follows up and says, was it better that Michigan had 4 weeks for Alabama and only 1 for Washington to prep? Seems like it worked out scheme-wise.
Yeah, I do. I think that was good. And I mentioned this last time, is I'm glad they're playing the next week. There's no 2-week lull between games, because that can tend to, Michigan's ready. They're locked and loaded now. They're locked and loaded. It's time to go to the next challenge and get this thing done. Where Alabama, there's a lot to, coaching against them, I would like more time. And I know they would say, well, they get more time too, but that's all right. I don't care. I just as soon have a little bit more time to put in maybe some surprise elements, components to our offense to make it a little tougher for them to defend. I'm not sure they need that as much against Washington, although they're going to need some of it.
All right. To the next one. Um, you kind of touched on this. Vance, you kind of touched on this. Jeremy Matthews says, how much of the Alabama game plan should we use against Washington's defense? How will shifts and motion affect this Pac-12 defense?
I think you use it. They've been doing it anyway. This isn't news. They do this every game. I just think it's like I said. I think you should have less. The expectations of busting somebody wide open, like happened last week, I think are less. Not entirely. You still might be able to do that, but the way Alabama plays is a little different.
So here's kind of digging into that question a little bit more. Yeah, they shift motion all the time, but it seemed like every snap versus Alabama. Do you anticipate them doing it as much this week against Washington?
I don't know. I don't think. Probably not. Probably not quite as much.
You don't think so either, Vance?
No, I don't think so.
No,
just enough to keep them off balance.
Just enough to keep them off balance. I think that's probably the problem sometimes in game plans, and I've fallen into this trap too. Is you become enamored with what worked against the last opponent, you want to start putting it over the next opponent, and it doesn't really fit. So to move the team, move your front like 29 out of 31 times in one half, I don't know if that's necessary in this game, and I don't think it's going to have the same effect. So,
and why wouldn't you? This is a question. This is kind of like Joe Simon and I were talking about this morning. But why wouldn't you do just?
Well, I'd rather focus on other stuff. Gotcha. Spend less time shifting and doing all that, and focus on things I think might be more advantageous to our attack. So, and again, I'm not saying Michigan will shift. I promise you that's happening. But to the degree they did against Alabama, I'd be a little surprised if it was that much.
Heavy package in this game, Al?
Absolutely, Sam. Absolutely. I miss Trente playing at tight end. I will say that. I liked that nice big butt. That was awesome. But they may find another guy that could do it, Trent, because Trente's in there all the time now, and he's all fired up now. I watched your interview. Oh, man. Trente is all fired. That man is ready to roll. And I'm going to tell you something now. Some of the doubters about his ability to pass protect, put on the video, okay? Trente did fine. I mean, he could always block pretty good. He's always a pretty good run blocker. But he is, if this kid keeps playing, and I think the kid should play another year, where he starts the whole year, and I think his stock will go up. But he's been a great addition, and it was hard losing Zenter, because Zenter was as good a lineman as we had, if not the best. But Trente has done a great job of filling it, and we got Barnard in a position I think that he's more natural at. So,
any run menu, any run plays off the menu? I asked that question based on this one that Steve Horn just said. They said, Al, it would seem that we will have our full run menu available in this game, static 4-man front. Do you think that's the case?
I think so, yeah. But feature certain runs more than others, based on what you feel they're more vulnerable doing. But I think pretty much the base runs are all up. It's just a matter of how much you feature them based on what you want to do the most. You know what I mean? If you're kicking their butt with dual plays, hell, you may end up with 15 dual plays. Test the waters early in the game, see where they look vulnerable, and then go from there.
Colin says, why is anyone talking limiting possessions? Michigan should just play their normal game and be efficient on every possession. Do you think it's foolish to be talking about doing what you can to keep Washington off the field?
Yep. I agree with exactly what he said. And the residual of that will be less possessions for Washington. So I think they know he's right. When I assess that based on the totality of the game, not necessarily saying to your team, hey, we got to have the ball more than them. Play your game. It'll naturally happen if you execute well. So whatever that means.
All right. Here's another one. Seth Floyd says, Al, would you say the ratio run to pass should be, what do you think it should be for Michigan in this game?
I would say to win the game, I would say they should be probably middle 60s run to pass, 64 run, probably the rest pass. To win. Now, if the game is a barn burner, now you're gonna it's like TCU a year ago. That run pass ratio is going to go up. But what I think has to be balanced, Sam, early in the game particularly, is run to pass should be 50-50 on first down, and then see how things go. You know what I mean? But winning games usually, even you know, you end up running the ball more than you end up passing it. I mean, that's why. Which like I said, when I saw Washington's numbers, that kind of surprised me. They did not run the ball more than they do, even though they have a great passer. So
Steve Horn clearly has been watching tape. Lot of questions from Steve. He says, "Out Oregon State and Utah had some success in tight formations, pounding them, and also hit some jet sweeps. Fits us
mhm.
perfectly. What do you think?"
Test the edge. Test the edge. I think perimeter runs are there, and yes, Oregon State did hit two flies off. They hit the fly under center, hand the ball off, arc two tight ends, and Michigan has shown that play before. That will not be news to them. Crack sweeps. This was another thing that showed up is either pitching the ball or handing the ball in the offset back and shotgun and cracking down, pulling the tackle and doing that, and then maybe there's some quarterback pinnacles. Okay, all that stuff is pretty good. As I look at it, Oregon ran the ball for 204 yards on them. Okay, and SC ran it for 203 yards on them. Those were the biggest numbers that I saw. Texas ran it for 180 yards, but like I say, I think Texas got away from the run game a little bit, or they might have had some more. So there's some things there. Tulsa ran it for 168 on them. So they're not a stone wall on a run game. But they're not a sieve either. I mean, they're not like they're rushing for 300 on them. That didn't happen either. So, but with Michigan, those numbers should be better than with those teams that I just recited.
Yeah, Shadyville kind of picked up on that. This whole thing about the edges. You mentioned their edges, especially Trice getting after the quarterback. How can we best take advantage of their aggressiveness? You already heard somebody talking about screens, but how
Yeah.
best can you take advantage of their aggressiveness?
And like I said, I think the counter play, anything off tackle, forcing them to close because that's what they're going to do. Okay, they're gonna close. In most instances, they take it on with their inside arm. Sometimes they will spill. It's not 100%. I'm sure based on what their force responsibilities are. But I would test those, both of them, both 4 and 8. Go with them with your counter plays. I'm sure they will. I'm certain of. You're going to get counters or you're going to get powers at those edge guys because they're always wide. And right off the top in a game plan, whenever you see 9 techniques like that, you got to see how they're going to play. And you got to use not only if they do close hard, you got to have counter punches to that. And if they don't, you just ram it right up the rear end.
Adam Shepardson asks, "How do you feel about a couple end arounds to attack outside run gaps? Washington struggles tackling on the perimeter."
Yeah, I think you're going to see maybe a little reverse, U-turn reverse, or like we said, a fly, some type of fly action, maybe even a fly action reverse. Who knows? But I think you're going to get a heavy misdirection play, not just like a naked or a split zone. I think you're going to see something where it starts one way, somebody gets the ball and takes it back the other way. Michigan's done it several times in other games, and that play has shown up on the tape. I don't remember what game right now, but it has showed up against Washington. So
Nala asks, "Al, when I watched the Oregon game, I don't know which one, I think Washington's defense played good. How did they limit Oregon's offense? Any key takeaways from that game?"
well, the Vance mentioned it. They covered pretty good. I was surprised that how well they had done. Not that they're horrible, because I told you they're not. But after watching Alabama and those two corners for Alabama, they could cover. They're not those kinds of players. But it wasn't just the corners doing the covering. There were some issues. They were knocking passes down. They were making some plays. So they're capable. They're very capable. But the key there to me is throwing the ball when you want to throw the ball off your play action passes, where you can cancel a second level, force them to play the run, and then try and drop layered routes or outside floods in behind it. I think that's your best opportunity. If you're just getting a hard buzz every time you drop back, you're giving them a better chance to play those routes. But if they got to play your run, it slows the whole process down. Okay, so I think that's got to be a big part of the plan.
Venice, we are going to get to Vance questions with Vance. Vance is sitting in on the Al session.
Hey, do I get to sit in on the Vance session?
Sit in on the Vance session if you want to.
Go with it, Al.
And ask some questions in the Vance session. That's why I'm keeping it simple. I thought that was understood, Venice. I don't know.
Vance, hey, I watch Vance's videos. He's a treat, man. I just don't have that kind of personality. I got to work on it.
Al, can I ask you a question here? Because they play 3 and they play quarters. What about Dino double post route?
Oh, yeah. And that showed up. Showed up. I wrote it. Matter of fact, Vance, you are like clairvoyant, man. Yes. Dino post versus 3 coverage inside the 20.
What about the pin route? Post outside with a dig by number two.
The dig guy number 2
Yeah.
and pull the safety in. Yep. I didn't see that. I didn't see that route, but it's nails against quarters, right? It's nails against quarters. As long as you can read it out when you see it's one high and get off the post and make the other reads, you're good to go. But that is another one, and Michigan has it. They have it. But the Dino post was the one that jumped out at me. The double post with a double move by the outside receiver, inside receiver pulling the safety out, and the outside receiver working the one-on-one with the corner. That was there. That was definitely there.
All right, we got another one to look out for. I'm keeping notes of all these.
Oh, we're just brainstorming the hell out. You know what's great, Vance, is making the calls where you don't have to be accountable for them. You know what I mean?
That's exactly right.
A couple more for Al. Brian R wants to know, Al, if you want to get JJ in a rhythm from the start, what would you be calling against this defense?
Oh, what we've talked about this in the past, and I don't know how many plays they script, but I think they do. Is start the game off with, again, good balance on 1st and 10. Give them a couple high percentage throws because they're in a lot of 3 deep zone and there's some holes in there they can exploit. It shows up on the videos. The stick route, the old tight end running the stick in the 3x1, little turnout, and the inside guy running that internal fade, and that outside guy smashing. That play showed up from a couple teams. And it gives you a vehicle to be able to get to a couple different throws based on how they're covering you. But those type of things, those little underneath stuff. And then, hell, about every third pass, take a shot at their ass. See if they can cover the thing down the field. And if it's not open, tell JJ, take off, okay? Because there are chances for him to run in this game.
All right. Nizzy B says, Al, perhaps this was already answered, but do you see a Michigan downfield attack like Ohio State in 2022 coming since Washington seems far less concerned with JJ passing?
Well, they better get concerned with JJ passing because he can pass, okay? And he showed he's healthy also. So the thing about the passing game, the way Michigan's culture is, okay, they are primarily a running team. They are a bully team. But when their quarterback is right, they're complete, okay? They're complete because he can hit 7 out of 10 passes, which most guys can't do on air. Okay. So I think you got to go at it with the idea that we're not going to be afraid to throw the ball. We're not going to get away from our culture. We're going to do what got us into this football game.
So this is a question for both of you guys, Al and Vance. This is from Steve Horn again. You got Mike Hart, you got Jack Tuttle on this team. They were both at Indiana when Kalen DeBoer was the OC. How much do you tap into those guys for intel, for intelligence on Kalen DeBoer, even though Kalen DeBoer is years removed? He went to Fresno State after Indiana. So how much do you tap into that? Is that something that you spend some time trying to explore since he worked with them in the past?
Go ahead, Al.
I mean, I'd ask. I wouldn't expect any magical results on that. But I'd ask. I'd say, what's his demeanor when he throws a pick? What's things like that. But I wouldn't count on it. You know what I mean? I always think that kind of reconnaissance is overrated. It's like a screen door on a submarine. I don't think it really is very useful at the end of the day. It sounds good. But, I mean, hell, Alabama hired the Michigan linebacker coach. Okay.
George Elo.
Yeah. And I'm sure George helped him out, but it didn't show up a lot.
Yeah, he helped Michigan. You're exactly right, Al. He helped.
No, I mean, it's all, these NFL teams switch players all the time. They know their systems. They know and it just doesn't seem to. I mean, it's a little overrated,
If it's recent, it might help a little bit, especially if you know about players, that type of thing. But otherwise than that, he's so far removed from those guys. There's nothing they can help him out with.
No, I couldn't agree with you more. I just don't. I think it's overrated. I'll just say that.
All right, just we riding down here. This one is from, I should say, Jeremy Matthews. Al, what is happening with Edwards this year? Why has his production suffered, or do you think his impact is still greatly felt?
Oh, I think
you think his impact can be greatly felt in this game? Because I heard you talking about a real.
Oh yeah, he's always a threat. So don't underestimate him because he can create a big play. Period. Now, if he hasn't created as many as you'd like, so be it. Then maybe that's the case. But Donovan Edwards is always a threat, and he should never You better make sure you know where he is when he's on the field, because they purposely do things with him to feature him and occasionally decoy with him. So I think he could be a big factor in this game. Who knows? But he may not. But I just know this: they better be aware of him.
How much do you expect play action to be a part of the game plan? That's from Ivan St. Fard.
Well, again, I think they threw 5 shots against Alabama. They had not been throwing many, and we found out why they hadn't been throwing
Right.
many, because of some health issues and being able to drive throws. But now that JJ's healthy, I look for 5 or more in this game. Particularly the way they cover. I think that it's a little more vulnerable, but we'll see.
All right, so Al, let's wrap up right here. You, who has coordinated close to 40 years, not 40 years, but close to 40 years. You've watched the film, you've heard the questions. Give us the bullet point game plan, bullet point approach heading into the national championship game.
Okay, just be kind of a summary of what we've already
Yeah,
talked about.
yeah.
Again, I would continue the movement. I would not change that. I would not maybe feature it as much as they did against Alabama, because I think there's other things to emphasize. Play smash mouth, don't hesitate. Run your stuff, run your base plays, test the waters on your base plays, see what they look vulnerable to, and never give up on it. Never give up on it, because it may take to the fourth quarter till the rock cracks. Force the defense to defend the perimeter, whether it be with crack sweeps, fly sweeps, because they've all shown up on the video. Make them run to the ball as much as you possibly can. Take 4 to 5 shots at the 3 quarters coverage. Have answers to that. You have a plan for Donovan Edwards. We talk about Donovan, have a plan, because I think Donovan could be a factor in this game. Okay. And in this game, the quarterback, if you don't have your check down, don't be shy about running the ball, because I think that has definitely showed up on all the videos. And have some quarterback plan runs too. We talked about the bluff play, maybe a quarterback draw, something like that. And then have your misdirection package. Okay. Whether it be naked bootlegs, reverses, whatever, but something just so that they can't pursue the ball all the time. So I think they'll come up with all that stuff and feature what they feel is the most important. But I think those are the things that they've been the most vulnerable to.
Got to get your prediction now. Yeah, come on, man. You got to put it on the line.
I'm going to kill you with this prediction, and boy, am I going to piss off some Washington people. But I think Michigan will beat Washington 38-21.
So you think it's not going to be close?
Oh, I think it'll be close for a while. Yeah, I think it'll be close for a while. But I think, and I could eat my words, boy, that I've never done that. Most guys pick the spread, they're going to. But I think that I just think the matchup bodes well for Michigan. I could be wrong, but I've been wrong before. So if you guys lose a lot of money, I don't want to hear it.
Well, you got to get the other picture. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go out in this room. Al, I'm going to send you the link to Vance's room. And you go sit in Vance's seat. Vance is going to be in that seat. Everyone else, go right over to Vance's room right now, because we're going in there right now, and we're getting started on the defense. We're going to zoom right through that. So if you're ready, thanks for watching another edition of the Michigan Football Breakdown Preview Style, focused on the offense against the Washington defense. We'll see you next time.